and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 2 of the Halloween Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing 20 Halloween-themed Cricut projects in 20 days. 10 of the projects are designed by me, and 10 are guest designer projects from some of my crafting friends. Today's project is by Lucy Foxworth, and it's this stunning 3-dimensional papercraft haunted house with porch. Lucy is the paper architect behind the captivating tiny house designs at paperglitterglue.com. Often found covered in glue and cat hair and immersed in the details of her latest projects, Lucy is a crafting expert who loves sharing her knowledge so anyone can craft extraordinary creations. I love all the details in this haunted house project. It looks so realistic, and this would make an excellent room decoration or centerpiece for your Halloween celebrations. The cut files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Halloween Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/HCC23. If you're already registered, check for an email from me with subject line Halloween Craft Countdown ticket information, or any of the other emails from me that you've been sent throughout the countdown. Can't find them? Check your junk or spam box to see if they've gone there by mistake. These emails contain the link to view the countdown projects and download today's files. Scroll down this page to find today's project. Click the button to start the files automatically downloading to your computer or mobile device. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/HCC23 bundle, which immediate immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Halloween Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. All downloads come in zip folders. You will need to unzip them before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space.
Hey y'all, I'm Lucy. My website is paperglitterglue.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make a little haunted house with a porch. I just love this design. I was really tickled when it worked out the way I wanted to. This was my first one I made, painted on cardstock. This is the second one, just kind of decorated cardstock. And then I even made one out of cardboard just to show you that they can be more sturdy. So if you love Halloween and you want to make just a fun little table topper or something to sit on the mantle, it's not really scary, it's mostly just fun. So I hope you will join me for making the haunted house with the little porch.
All right, in terms of materials for making your little house, your haunted cottage, your haunted shack. This one is my prototype, and I made it out of 1 10-pound cardstock. And I actually painted on it. That's why I included paints in the supplies, because if you do kind of a thin layer, not too thick, you're not going to warp the paper. And I thought it worked really well. So this is the cardstock version, and I do recommend you use thicker cardstock, 1 10-pound cardstock, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a minute. And this version I actually made with cardboard, which is, far sturdier, and I was able to decorate more. I added siding. I glued each individual pieces on. I made a metal roof. I used a metallic tape. Now, this is kind of optional, but I just wanted you to know what you can do with this pattern. And I glued several layers of cardboard together. I used, for the house and the fence, I used 30-point cardstock, which 30-point cardboard, which Amazon calls medium weight chipboard, or light chipboard. I think it's not really chipboard, and you can see that I glued like 4 layers together because the fence is kind of fragile. Also, if it's thicker, it stands up better. So that is the cardboard version. And the version we're going to make today is going to be out of cardstock. So These are just kind of optional paints. They're really lightweight paints. It's just a brand I like, Tim Holtz from Ranger. And so if you want to paint on cardstock, just get an craft acrylic paint. And I just use my brushes. You can see they're very worn out, but they work for me, so I don't switch them out very often. This is the main glue I use, Bearly Art glue. I use that especially for card stock. It works very well for cardstock. It doesn't work as well for cardboard. It does work. In fact, I think I didn't pull out my stronger glue, so I think I constructed this whole thing with my Bearly Art craft glue. The exception is I used a much thicker glue to adhere it to the base. You do need, I think it helped. You can use this glue, but then you really have to hold it down for a while. And this is my thicker glue that I prefer. This is called Quick Dry Tacky Glue, and I like this little top. It doesn't always come with a top like this, so you can store it upside down so it's easier to squeeze. Quick Dry Tacky Glue. I used my 30-point cardboard to make a base, so when we're done with the house we make today, I'll put it on this kind of base. I think a cardboard base helps protect the house because, like, if it tips over or something, you don't, like, bend all the corners and stuff. So I like to use a cardboard base. So this is 5 layers of 30-point cardboard glued together. And I just painted it, and I'll distress it so it looks a little more what I call Halloween-y. And it is, I think it's like 4.5 by 5 inches, so you can actually, it fits either way, long ways. The fencing, really, it would be kind of tight to put the fencing on this. The fencing is designed for a larger piece, but you can always trim it. So I put 4 sizes of fencing in the pattern, a 6.5 inch piece. I think this is 5 inches, 2 inches, and then there's a 1 inch piece. So you have options. You can kind of build your fence however you want, but you can see it'd be a little bit difficult to fit it on this base. Not impossible, but so you can enlarge it if you need to. And there's a hole in the bottom so you can add lighting to your little house. Your Halloween shack. All right, a little bit more about the paper options, the cardboard and paper option. This watercolor paper, and I really like it. So you can paint with acrylic paints on it, and it's a nice thick paper. You can kind of tell when you flick it that it's very sturdy. And these two are 110-pound cardstocks. Again, kind of a deep sound. They're very thick, and this is 65-pound cardstock. It's just much lighter. See, these don't wobble as much. So for the structure of the house, I would try to use a thicker cardstock. This is 140, but the common stuff I get at my hobby store is 110-pound cardstock. That's really kind of my go-to material for mini houses. Cut out all the pieces. Roof pieces here, a chimney, the back piece. These are window options that you can put behind your pieces so you can decide how you want the windows to look. And you have several options. Like this one has little colored figures, little colored orange curtains with some kind of figures. I love the little cat at the top. Or you can, and I just put a little piece of yellow behind the door. This is where the door goes. These are all the windows and shutters. This is for the kind of banister around the porch. These are the porch pieces. This is the base. And then these are the columns. So those are all the pieces. If you want some roof options, if you want to do a some shingles. There is a shingles file as well.
Now that you have seen the materials and the pieces involved for making the Halloween house with the porch, I'm going to show you how I cut it out using my Cricut Maker. You can use other cutting machines, including the other Cricut Maker, the other Cricut varieties, and Explore Air or earlier makers. And also you can use like the Silhouette, but the machine I am most familiar with is my Cricut Maker. So that's what I'm using, and I'm going to show you how to cut out the design using Cricut Design Space. So let's go to New Project in the right upper corner. And now, once we get this screen up, we can upload. And the upload button is in the lower left-hand corner. And if you're very familiar with Cricut Design Space, you can just skip this part and go to the actual construction once you've cut out your pieces. Alrighty, next I'm gonna, even though I've got the file already in, I'm gonna show you how to upload the image. I browse my computer, and this one is here, Haunted House Craft with Sarah, and we're going to do the SVG files. I don't need the base at this time. I don't need shingles at this time. I'm going to do the Haunted House with porch, and I'm going to open it. This is the way it looks on my Macintosh. That is indeed the file that I want, so I'm going to upload it using this green button in the lower right-hand corner. And now I'm going to click on the file I just uploaded and add to Canvas. This brings the entire file up. I like to see the file, so I usually reduce the size using this little button down here in the lower left-hand corner. So I'm going to reduce it to 25%. I just keep clicking that little minus button, and that way I can see my entire file. And one way to know if it has been uploaded at the size that I've designed it at, you can ungroup it. The ungroup is under this layers panel. This symbol is group and ungroup, so I'm going to click on it, and now it should be ungrouped. And if you click on the 1-inch scale, you'll see that it says 1 by 1, so the file did upload at the scale I designed it. I'm going to delete the little, now that I know that it's the size, the correct size, I'm going to delete it because I don't need that anymore. And really the most important thing, the whole reason I'm going through showing you how this looks in Cricut Design Space, is so you can do the score lines correctly. Cricut just kind of assumes these are all cut lines, but obviously to make a 3D project you have to change things to score lines. So in my files, all of the score lines are grouped with the piece they belong to, but that still doesn't help the machine understand that it's supposed to be a score line. So we have to designate it as a score line and attach it. And so you may wonder, well, why haven't you told me what the score line is? And there's not a way for me as a designer to tell you specifically that this is a score line, what I'm kind of outlining on this piece. So I have to do it kind of indirectly. One, when you look at this, let's click on one of these pieces. Let's click on this piece. This is the main piece. This is grouped with the score lines, but you can see there's just a section of lines there, and that means I did intend it to be score lines. And if you click on just the lines, not the entire group thing, you'll notice when you go over to the operations menu, this red color block, this block turns red, and that it means that it's a score line. I draw all my score lines as red. So next, under the operations menu, you click on this little down arrow right here, and go down to the draw section and let's click score. Now the operations menu says the word score, and you can also see score here. Now the other thing we have to do is we have to tell our machine that we have to tell Cricut Design Space that this set of score lines goes with this exact piece. So I'm going to select the entire piece and click attach. And now our machine knows that the score lines go to this piece. And you have to go through all of the pieces with score lines, and they're actually a fair number. There are 4 columns for the porches. This roof, it's a little bit kind of a funky roof, but I really like it. It has 2 score lines in it. This is a small extra roof that goes on the front extension. It goes here. That one has a score line. The chimney has 4 score lines. The roof for the front extension has a score line, and the porch. So go through and find all these lines, and yes, it takes a minute, and change under the operations menu, change to score, and attach. This is we already did that one. So anyway, this is the front extension. These are the lines for the front extension. Go to operations menu, score, click the entire piece, and attach. In terms of making the design, I'll show you that in a minute after I change all the score lines. Now that I've got all of the score lines attached, I'm going to show you a little bit about how I make it. I usually group things by color myself, the colors that I want to use, so and what fits on one piece of paper. So I know that the back piece and the front extension fit on one piece. I actually usually move it like that. Now I'm going to show you how to cut it out, sort of the settings that I use. I'm going to hide most of this. I'm going to go to the layers panel, group it, and hide it. See the little eyeball icon under the layers panel under this group? Hide it. And I'm actually going to I'm going to group and hide this portion too. And now this is the front piece, and for me it actually takes one whole sheet of cardstock, which is in the US is 8.5 by 11. So this takes one sheet. So I'm going to show you the settings that I choose for cardstock. I almost always move it down a little bit. I find that the machine cuts a little better just away from the edges, so I move it down a little bit. I'm going to continue. I'm going to select my device. I'm using this Cricut Maker, and I'm using my favorite material, which I've mentioned before, is 110-pound cardstock, which is just slightly lighter than this heavy watercolor paper. I think it cuts well under this setting, so that's what I choose. So I'm going to click this as the choice of my paper. I always choose more. It seems to work. You kind of have to learn how your machine works. So if you're not sure how well it cuts, pick some cardstock, maybe a color you don't really like, and just run it through and just kind of see how it'll work. Don't waste your pretty colors. So I'm going to click more, and then I like using the scoring tool just because it's simpler. I don't have to switch my blade and my scoring wheel out. I just put the scoring stylus in the B clamp on my Cricut Maker, and then we're ready to go. And almost always I run it through twice. I don't take the mat out. I just push the go button twice, so that I let it go through once, and then I'll push the button again just to make sure it cuts it. And that is how to set the pattern up in Cricut Design Space. Oh, and I don't sort out the colors. Let me go back to the design. I figure you know what colors of cardstock you want to use, so I usually just design in one color and let you pick out how you want your trim and stuff to be. Okay, now we'll go to the actual construction.
Now let's fold along score lines so we can get our structures ready. I'm going to start with the porch because the porch is really the hardest one. So I'm going to just fold along the score lines. I use scrap paper for this one. So I always fold towards me first and then away. That's the porch. The next hardest ones are the columns because the lines are close together. So if you have any problems, just put down a ruler along the score line and then bend towards yourself. So I bent towards myself. Now I'm going to bend away, fold it away from myself. And that's how you do the columns. So let's do the main body of the house, which is this one. So this is actually 2/3 of the house. This is the front and the side pieces. And we will insert the back piece behind it. I used a file to make kind of Halloween siding. I have a little book. I'll put a link to it. So if you want to buy a file, but honestly, you can really just draw it and it doesn't take long and it looks, I like the hand drawn. I like the way it looks. Just a little irregular. So you can do something like that if you don't have a file to draw on your paper. This cutout's just to allow a little light for the front extension. So this is 2/3 of the body, the main body, and this is the back piece. I separated them so I could make a bigger piece. Meaning a bigger house. So see, I didn't have cardstock. This is over 12 inches wide, so I didn't have cardstock that was this long. So I added a back piece, and I call it an inset, so it sets in. So those are the main structure of the house. This is the front extension. It just adds more personality to the house, makes it a little less plain. And in effect, it is actually a little house on its own. I made it that way because I think structurally it's so much easier to adhere to the house when you've got a complete structure. So this is to allow any light, say if you have light inside the house, to go through the windows. So that's the purpose of that. And see, it's basically just a little house. Roof pieces. This is the roof, the angled dormer type roof for the front extension. This is a little extra porch that goes on the front extension. I think it adds a lot of personality. And the other folds are on the main roof. So this is the back. The back is kind of plain. The back is kind of plain. But the front has this funky little extra, and I really like it. I think it works really well. This extra little porch. Next, we'll glue on the windows and the door, because that's easier to do when the structure is flat. Okay, here's the front extension. The front extension has a short window and a long window. And if you want it to be a little more Halloween-y, you can angle it a little bit, make it a little bit crooked. This is the front window that goes under the porch. On the front extension front window, And it's not very visible. And let's see, let's add some shutters. I made them very simple. There we go. And next, we can go ahead and add the background piece. This is a printable file, and I just cut it out by hand because I think it's faster than running it through your machine. And just kind of line it up. And you can also make it just a little smaller if you want. I think I designed it slightly smaller than the size of the house, but you know, sometimes things wiggle a little bit. Okay, I add enough glue and I leave it a little bit lumpy so I have some room to move, so I can situate it the way I want. There we go. So that is the windows, and for the front extension, let's do the same for the main part. Now all we need for windows are here, the 3 on each side, and then a door. This is going to be covered up by the front extension, so don't worry about putting anything there. And you can use, I use 65-pound cardstock. Oh, no, I didn't. I use 110-pound cardstock for the windows, but you can use any kind because they're not structural. I mean, you can use 65-pound for this as well, for the main structure. It's just stronger, lasts longer. If kids play with it, it's just a little more resilient. So that's just my preference. Try to use 110 for the structural pieces and whatever you have for decorative pieces. And let's glue the background. And I chose for this house, because of the pretty purple color, I didn't want to put the print. So this one has a little cat, a spider web, and a ghost. I just thought the yellow contrast, the yellow background contrasts so pretty with the purple. So I'm not adding my kind of, you know, funky designs. I just want the plain ones. And there are options where you can actually color, you know, like if you want certain color curtains, you can actually color them in with a pen. So I added extra options on the printable page. I get happy when I see it like this. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. Okay, so those are, oh, the door. All right, the only other thing about the door is I left a little porthole in it. I don't know what you call it, this little window on the door, and I want it to have a yellow background too. And this is, I printed this on just regular paper, and the nice thing about regular copy paper for these these window designs is that light shines through it really well. And so it lights up nicely. So that's why I use copy paper rather than cardstock. You can use cardstock, but I don't have a good light with me, but light shines through really nicely. Okay, so that is the main structure of the house with the windows adhered. Now let's assemble the porch pieces. Really, this is the porch base. So I'm going to glue down this little side flap. Use a little tape to help me hold it down. It's such a little tab, it keeps popping up. Okay, that looks good. Next, let's glue one of the columns together. Okay, so this piece is slightly narrower than this one, so it goes underneath. Like I said, I used some scrap paper that I'd drawn on. Okay, now please note that there are two different sizes. There are two shorter ones and two longer columns, and they're angled at the top. The angle goes in the back, and I will show you in a second when I get them lined up. So on my prototype, the shorter ones go to the right side of the porch. They hold up this portion of the roof, and then the two taller ones go with the front extension. So it just gives you like a little more variation. It just, I think, a really cool porch design. So that's why I did it that way. And same thing on my cardboard version. I didn't angle them quite exactly right, so they're at different angles, but it still looks good. So the two longer ones go here, and the two shorter ones go here. And we're going to go ahead and glue them, assuming this holds. I'm going to put these two in place, the two shorter ones. Just kind of poke them. This is a 1/4 inch and this square is a 1/4 inch. So you have to work it in just a little bit. Now I've been making porches on little houses for quite some time, and I've always struggled, but I think this works best. So I'm going to glue these in place so that they're already anchored at the base. So when I put the roof on, they don't flex so much. They don't start leaning backwards or forwards. So I am going to use my thicker glue, my quick dry tacky glue, and I am going to be exuberant. This is one place you could use hot glue because it'll dry fast, but make sure they're standing up straight when you do that. Although it is a Halloween house, so if it's a little crookedy, you can get away with it. So now, as this dries, you want to make sure this is even with the bottom of the porch and that they are standing up straight. So in other words, I try to keep an eye on them so I can make sure they dry properly. Okay, now, that's what I forgot to do. I'll change this on the pattern. Got to snip these a little bit. These little tabs, these are roof tabs, and I will take this off before you get the pattern. So these are roof flaps, and what these do is prevent the house from flexing in or out, and it makes the gables, this sharp pointed end, much more stable. So it also provides a good gluing surface for these tabs. And try to make sure your house is rectangular, not angled, not skewed. So I explained that this is like 2/3 of the house, and here's the back piece. And I call it an inset house because this back piece fits inside the front, and that leaves you with the seam in the back, so it's not visible. It's much less visible. Okay, let's apply glue to these side tabs on the back piece. And the critical thing for this is to remember to line up the bottom. These two pieces have to be even. So that looks good. And if you want, you can do a little bit of tape. And if you're worried about it tearing your paper, you can kind of do like this or use a delicate painter's tape so that you kind of make it a little less sticky. And I'm not going to adhere it, too strong. There you go. Just a little bit. And the next side. Lining up the bottom. So that is the rectangular structure for our house, and you try to make sure you glue it so that it doesn't skew. So just like we did on our front extension, I've got these roof flaps, and that keeps these two gabled ends at equidistance so that it just provides great structure for it. So these are the roof flaps, and they're just for structure. They're not going to be seen. They have nothing to do with the roof. We put an over roof on top. So don't worry that they don't go all the way. And here we can do tape again. We don't really have to worry about it being visible because it's going to be covered by the over roof. And again, try to make sure you're not making it wonky and skewed. And then we will add the front extension and the porch, and then finally the roof. Now I'm going to adhere the porch. So I'm going to apply glue here and then apply the entire thing to the house. So the columns are in the front. Glue this. Line up the sides and the bottom. I'm going to use some binder clips for this to help hold it while it dries. We'll let that dry. Then we can put the front extension in because it stands on top of the porch. Now it's time to glue the front extension on. This is when it gets fun for me, and I see all the pieces coming together. Using the strong glue, largely because that's what I grabbed. The Bearly Art Glue would work as well, although this will adhere faster. And again, there's that opening so that if you put a light inside the little house, it's got a chance of shining through these front windows. It has to be glued to the porch as well. Apply a little glue here. And truthfully, that glue stuff won't show because I'm going to have the porch railing will cover it up. Sometimes the porch tends to lean upward. So, and this is not pushed back like it should be. That looks better. Now we let that dry, and then we start putting the roof pieces on. Time to glue on the roofs. Okay, so there are actually 3 roof pieces. This is the main roof, and I was really happy that the pattern fits very well. This little extension on this side, the porch roof here, so it works really well. And then this is the gable roof that goes on the front, and then this little extra porch roof. Okay, so I decided it looked kind of plain, just this. I'll show you the other 2 roofs I've already done. This is my prototype, and I just kind of painted it, added a couple of different colors just to give some variation and to make it look more like it's a Halloween house. So that's just layers of paint, some lighter color grays and sort of a blue gray over painted with black. And then on my cardboard house, I added, oh, and my cat's knocked it over, but still it bent it a little bit here, but that works okay for a Halloween house. This is what I call the rusted roof, and I do have a rusted roof tutorial. But in the past, I've also done shingles on houses. So let me show you another example This is the house I call Hildegard's, I think it was Hildegard's Haunted Abode in my book, 13 Handcrafted Houses. And I really like the Harlequin effect on her little house. So I decided to try that. And those are the shingles I've included in the pattern for this little Halloween house, this particular Halloween shack. Let me see what you think about it. Okay, so I did the Harlequin. I added these shingles. It took me, I was watching an episode of the British Baking Show. It took me like close to an hour, 40 minutes to an hour to do it. But I really like the effect, and I think it looks good. So the other thing is, I thought for contrast, this roof should stay plain, so you're not just totally flooded with pattern. And this one would have the Harlequin pattern again. They're kind of jaggedy. So I think I'm going to glue this roof on as opposed to the very plain one. All right, and it fits nicely. Sometimes when you add stuff, you have to trim it just a little bit. So I had to trim through here just a little bit and there so it would fit perfectly. Also, if your material's thicker, sometimes you have to trim it. So like on the cardboard one, I had to trim it as well. All right, let's add glue. I'm going to use the stronger glue, although, like I said, the Bearly Art glue, yeah, just look at that. The Bearly Art glue works, especially when it on the seams. This part doesn't really touch that much, but these edges are particularly where the roof needs to adhere, right on these edges. Here, maybe a little bit in the middle, but not much. And I think I'm going to go ahead and add a little glue here. I may have to re-glue it, but okay, slide it down in place. You want to keep your house square. So the overhang is about 1/4 inch on each side. Push it down. And let's see how we fit our porch. So the fact that these have already, the porch columns have already, they're already dry and they're stuck, it just makes it so much easier to glue the porch roof on. So make sure it fits in at all the peaks. I'll let that dry, and then we will glue the gable roof on, followed by the front porch, another front porch extension. Now, I've used the thick, quick dry tacky glue here. I've applied it to the angled edge that goes against the roof and to the top of the front extension. Let's see how it holds. With the thick glue, it really helps hold it more effectively. Doesn't that look good? And I like the contrast with the black and the kind of Harlequin pattern. And once that dries, I'll add this second porch roof. Now for the final piece, this little front porch. And it's actually the hardest one to get on. It's sort of hard to apply, a little pressure. So again, I'm using my stronger glue for this. I'm going to apply it here. And going to apply glue to the top of the post. So I'm applying it just under the window. Remember, on the post, the angled part goes to the back. It really looks pretty good. I didn't show you how to do the shingles. There are two different patterns. There is one that's half a point, and this one has a complete, triangular point, and you just kind of alternate them and then cut them to size. And the final step is putting our little house on the base. Our little house is done. Our Halloween house is done. And so now I'm going to add it to the base. I made the base out of 5 layers of cardboard with a hole in the center. So if you want to put like a LED light in or a LED light string in the center, you can do that. And this base, I think, is 4.5 by 5 inches. So 4.5 by 5 inches. I'm going to use the strong glue again. I'm going to add it to the contact points at the bottom of the house, including our little columns. Okay, I usually start at the back and push it forward a little bit so that the glue trail's in the back, not the front. Center it. Paper towel. That's the little Halloween house. So I've enjoyed doing this for y'all, and I hope you'll make it. You don't have to do it nearly as detailed as I did. You can simplify things. You can actually leave off the porch if you want, or leave off at least this portion of the porch. But I'm just really happy with how it looks, and it's going to make a great Halloween decoration.
Now that we've made the little haunted house with the porch, I hope you see how much fun it is, and that even though it may look complicated, once you break it down into parts, it's not that complicated. And I showed you a couple of different ways of making it, kind of personalizing it. Doing the roof shingles, just painting the roof. I think this one looks good. I painted it just on cardstock. And this one, I didn't really show you exactly how I did it. I have a tutorial, the rusted roof tutorial. And just to show you all the different ways you can make a little house. So I have a number of free files on my blog, which include SVGs and PDF files, so you can make these houses. This is, I think it's called the Stone Clock House, and it's got like a little batwing fence with it, and I just think that one's really fun. This house isn't a Halloween house. It's I had to make a castle challenge on my blog, and this is based on a castle I saw on TV. So, but you could certainly use darker colors or, more purples and stuff, add some pumpkins to it and make it look, it would be perfect for Halloween. And another one that I think would work perfectly for fall or Halloween would be the old grade barn. I also had a barn making challenge on my website, and just add some pumpkins, some fall leaves, and it's perfect for the fall season. So I also wrote a book that I'm very proud of. It's like my favorite book, 13 Handcrafted Halloween Houses, for a howling good time, of course. And included in the book is there are SVG files. I've got printable files in there. I've got extra files for things like shingles and fences, different shingles and fences. So I think if you enjoy Halloween and you want to make like your own little Halloween village, then this book, you'll have lots of fun with it. So I put a number of the houses on display. This is Vlad's castle. This is, I think I named her Hildegard. Hildegard's haunted abode. And there's a batwing house, and let me see what else. Oh, here's one of my favorites. The coffin house. It's in the shape of a coffin, and I put a little tombstone, a little graveyard on top. So that one's very fun. But all of those, so there are 13 different houses in my book, and so if you had fun with this one, you'll have fun with the 13 handcrafted Halloween houses. The other thing about it is they're relatively small, so if you want a village, it's easy to make them and have a little village. Also, they're not so complicated and so precious that you're afraid to let kids play with them, because kids will want to set up their own village. They can't even help it. So I hope you will consider my book, 13 Handcrafted Halloween Houses, and also please visit me at my website, paperglitterglue.com, where I make just a lot of 3D paper crafts, and I just have a lot of fun, and most of all, I love to share it with you. Okay, I'll see y'all later. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a 3D haunted house for Halloween. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and Halloween fun. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 3 of the Halloween Craft Countdown. Don't forget, the link to get the cut files for this project is craftwithsarah.com/HCC23, but they are only free to download for 24 hours after this video goes live. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!